Chapter 5. The Path. The path was brown and sand color. The trees were remarkable. Some were brown, horizontal bark. Others had white bark. There were Christmas trees too. I can't remember their names. The path had gray rocks, and others were sand color. I felt around the stone piles for an arrowhead, as I did as a child. This path reminded me of one in my backyard as a child. We had a tennis court installed in our backyard, and there was an old retaining wall that had overgrown. The path of cobblestones had run its perimeter. I had found it once when I was hiding from my father and his verbal abuses. The grays and the browns, for some reason, broke free to a lovely flower bed. Pink, red, yellow. There were purple ones too, with little yellow hairs coming out of the center. There were daisies. It was a pretty idyllic scene. My mother would have been in her glory here. She loves flowers and birds, and there were birds here as well, singing some bird songs, all cacophony and very loud, chirping of bird sounds. But oddly, no sounds of mankind. Sounds of mankind is a phrase I've used my whole life to describe areas dominated by man. So if you're in the woods and you hear a gunshot or car sounds, i.e., sounds of mankind. There were none of it here. It was quiet, a little too quiet for a music festival. I've been going to camping music festivals for a long time, at least since I was old enough to drive myself. They are noisy. You can always hear the drummer tuning up the drums or random guitar. Maybe the music's inside some structure, I'm thinking. But the children, they should be playing in the beautiful forest. Lots of game tracks going off in every direction. No hunters, no garbage, no sound. Very odd for a music festival. Very odd indeed. And the bands, how did they get their gear in? Like, the trucks were not in the parking lot at the motel, so there must be a direct road into the festival. So why did Aunt meet me at the hotel and not directly to the festival? Odd. Kind of annoying, but fuck it. I got a shower. Most of those people at the festival can't say that, so I guess I should count my blessings. I keep hobbling down the path, as I'm 50 and old and fat, so hobbling down this path is a workout. Maybe I can get a golf cart ride back to the motel, or up the road to the motel. I'll bring my car down so I don't have to make this hike every time I come down from the hotel. I'm also going to need to return to my car to see if the Rombo Combo has a flashlight in the survival gear so I can manage my way back down the path in the dark. It's strange. I'm alone on this path. Again, unusual for a music festival. Except for the balloons and the trees and the red and gold streamers wrapped around the trees following the path, I wouldn't have known I was even going anywhere. Then I heard something, a faint whisper of voices. I must be getting close, I'm thinking. But I was incorrect about the sounds. There was a welcoming party of hippies in the woods, or at least I think they were. They had a horse too. It rode out behind me. The hippies were all wearing hippie garb. Some had tie-dyed shirts, others had that standard homemade clothes, and one had a serape, big hat, and they all had blue crystals around their necks, like ants' friends. But these weren't glowing like ants' friends were. It must have been a trick of the light. That must have been what it was. Are you guys the welcoming party? Am I far from the gathering? The girl on the horse looked at me with eyes I've never seen before, bluish gray, with long looks of tears, or she could have had just been dirty. Go back, she says. This is not a place for you. I'm looking for the music festival. Am I trespassing? Without blinking an eye, like a robot, she repeated back to me, go back now! This is not your land. You're not welcome here. So go back where you came from. Then, without another look, she shut up. And that odd look about her streamed across her face, and the look I couldn't recognize turned into a smile. Hello! We are the Hogrens. We live by the old Tree Inn. Come by at the first light and the first night of communion. Your festival is down the path and around the corner. Thank you, I said, and I moved down the path. I left the Hogrens and continued down the path. I was correct. The festival was indoors. It looked like an old abandoned school and town from the looks of it. The path gave way to the view of a valley. From the aerial, it looked like a mining town or maybe a logging town, something that had trailed on but eventually abandoned. I walked to the end of the road, path, what have you, and I was greeted by an older man with a big smile on his face and big goggle-like glasses. Welcome to Shrillfest, he said, and asked if I was hungry. I'm fine, I replied. I'm looking for Anthony, I know. Okay, I guess take me to your leader, I said half-jokingly, and with that same robotic look, he's like, okay, let's go. And we walked to the very end of the path, which opened up into a clearing. We were at the top of a small hill. Below us was a huge pavilion with folks standing in line to enter, empty-handed, but leave with huge bowls of food. The smell of food wafted up from the pavilion, and there were big tie-dyed tents that strewn across the landscape. And the school was off to the distance, about 200 yards from my location, in what appears to have been a football field. The goalposts were gone, but the stands remained. They were green color, dark, chipped in most areas, and others looked like they had recently been painted. It was a cool little hippie town in the middle of nowhere. To the left was of the tree line, which at some point had been a batting cage because it was a huge cage-like structure rotted out by rust. So there were areas of black cage still holding some kind of anti-rust treatment. The rest couldn't be said for the cage. It was clearly rusted, holes were everywhere, and foliage had grown up through the holes, providing a glimpse of the flowers in the forest. I could now hear music. Some kind of jam band was ripping off the Grateful Dead in the distance. I figured I'm not a deadhead, what do I care? To the right was a barren tree line that came down around another building several trees had fallen on in the past winters. I was surprised to see how much of this town had weathered neglect over the years. I saw an archway with some kind of Welcome to Shrillfest banner with stars and rainbows. Welcome to Shrillfest 2019. There was a shit ton of women and men, children, dogs, and cats on leashes. That surprised me. But it's 2019, my wife is always saying. It's normal, or when in Rome, or let me see what happens in Vegas stays in La La Land. My name's Jacob. Feathers. Or Feathers, if you like. I looked at the gentleman as he lifted his goggles. His eyes seemed tired, but smiled. Anthony's in the caves in communion. When he's done, he will meet you by the crystal. The crystal? I asked. Yes, But Jacob went on to say Aunt was joining their troop, and it was a ceremony for members only. So I was free to walk the grounds, free food. Then he said it's all free. Chill, chow, smoke, shrimp, on the family. He will be done by 3 bells, okay? The 3 bells? Yes. Oh, and try the apple heads. They are in season. Peace, and he strolled off into the pavilion. End chapter 5.